We believe here in unity very, very strongly that we are the living embodiment and that there is only one power and one presence, and that what is active as our life is active as all life. So where it begins, right here at home. So as we step into this progressive Advent cycle, we're going to be moving from faith to peace, to love, to joy. And in unity, what we know and believe is that it's never either or. It's always additive and inclusive. Additive and inclusive. We're saying yes, and we are including, and as we include, we up-level our consciousness. And so we've moved from faith, we're stepping into peace this week. And what is that really? What does that mean to step into peace? Because the whole point of this Advent cycle is a way for us to honor and to stand in this expansion into the Christ. And I really want to define terms here because I bet there are some people out there going, ooh, she said Christ. You'll notice there's an article in front of it, duh. The Christ. We're not talking about a person. We're not talking about an anthropomorphized deity. We are talking about the absolute realm of divine idea. We are talking about principles that are activated. And that this opportunity at Christmas for unity is not a celebration so much of a baby that was born how many thousands of years ago, but it is a celebration of the Christ being ignited within ourselves right now. This isn't a history lesson for us. This is about what's happening within our own consciousness. So when we're talking about this divine idea, we say that, we throw that word around a lot, the divine idea, the principle of the divine. I threw up here on this slide just a few of what these infinite expressions of the divine are. Beauty, wholeness, grace, creativity, flow, all the 12 powers. All of those pieces that are access points for each of us to activate the Christ nature that is already ours. We don't have to find it. We are here to reveal it. Yoo-hoo! That is what we are here to do. So what we're going to focus on today, this week, is how the idea of peace, the divine idea of peace, that has no opposite. That has no opposite. Yeah, exactly. How that gets to show up. How we get to activate that. How we get to understand that. And the real question is, how peaceful are you? Really? Really? How peaceful are you? Full of peace are you? Especially in this holiday season, there is so much in this season that actually creates a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety and we're seeing our families, for goodness sake. There's all these pieces that can actually ratchet up that sense of dis-ease that occurs within each of us. And then there's also, as Misa, and that song, thank you so much for singing that song. As that song shows, there's just things going on in the world. Every day, every moment, there are things going on in this world. And they disrupt our awareness of the peace, which nothing can actually disrupt. I really want to be clear about that. The only thing that's disrupting that peace is our consciousness, our capacity to activate it and to hold it as our life. So, I love, whenever I think about peace, I think about the story from Mark, where Jesus has been praying and working and preaching all day long. He's had a really long day. He's spelled out almost all the parables that he's so famous for. He's done it down by the water, so he's had a lot of noise and a lot of kerfuffle going on around him. He's been basically shouting at people all day long to get them to listen to his message of love and inclusivity. And at the end of that day, he and the disciples get in the boat, and they're heading back. It's been a long day. And Jesus falls asleep. He just conks out in the front of the boat. And he's sleeping in the boat, and all of a sudden, the waters get uneasy. Anybody know this feeling in your own life? The waters start to stir, and the winds are stirring up, and all of a sudden the boat is starting to be rocking and tipping, and it is not a fun time, and the disciples kind of freak out. In my mind, I see them sort of running back and forth, trying to get the boat, and nothing is working. And they finally, Jesus wakes up in the midst of the storm that's brewing on the seas, and he says, "Peace, be still." And then the wind ceased, and there was a dead calm. Don't we wish we could do that in our own life? This is what we all strive for. So in our understanding of the Bible and metaphysical teachings, everything that happens in that story is happening within you. So the exhaustion and the tiredness after perhaps you've had a spiritual growth spurt in consciousness. You are the one that is preaching the good word to your life, and you're living it. And then you get a little tired. Anybody in here relate to that? You just get a little tired, and you fall asleep in consciousness. You fall asleep in consciousness. And while you're sleeping in your consciousness, the storms, they start a-brewing. Things start to get unsettled. And those aspects of yourself, the disciples, that are desperately trying to help you move through this world with grace, with ease, with joy, with love, with moreness, start to be afraid. They start to panic. It's not going the way I want it to go. It doesn't look familiar. I don't know what to do. And in the midst of the panic, what happens is the turbulence gets even worse, and the chaos gets even worse. And in what's available to each of us is the capacity that Jesus demonstrated, which is for us to wake up. Wake up to the fact that we don't have to be in the midst of this seeming storm, that we can wake up. And that we have within us the capacity to say, "Peace, be still." And the winds that are stirring within us, the fear, the anxiety, the worry, the doubt, they can immediately be calmed. This is what is possible for each one of us. And what I love about the word rebuked, right? Sounds like it's being a naughty little child, right? Tisk, tisk, tisk. Get back in your corner, wind. Get back in your corner. Get back in the bottle. And actually, the word rebuked comes from the Old French reboucher, meaning again, to sort of hit it. Boucher being a log, a stick, right? Again, to hit it. So this is, in the very word that's there, is the understanding that you don't just do it once and it's done. We do it over and over and over and over again. We say, "Peace, be still. Peace, be still." Because that fear, when that fear takes control, and it starts running everything. I love Franklin Roosevelt. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Because when we let fear loose, whoo boy, does it have fun. Does it have fun in terms of running the show for us? So, in terms of our evolving consciousness, we have stages of consciousness that we hold in unity as being sort of the boilerplate. So we have the victim consciousness, and then we have the victor consciousness, where we feel really good about ourselves. We have channel, and then we have the Christ Buddha nature. So in victim consciousness, what we think is happening is that everything is happening to me. It's all happening to me. They did that to me. How dare they do that to me? I'm afraid of what they're going to do to me. In victor consciousness, this is like a strong manifestor consciousness. We feel really empowered when we're in victor consciousness because it's happening by me. I'm doing it. I am making it happen. Look at me. Peace be still. and it was calm. I am so powerful. You guys know that feeling? Yeah. And then we have channel, which is that it's happening through me. So no longer is there a sense of something opposing us. There's an awareness that everything is working for our good. Everything is sort of there, but there's still a little bit of separation because it's happening, like Paul Hasselbeck calls it the hot dog in the bun consciousness, right? That we're the hot dog, but God is the bun. But we're still somehow sort of separate from this divine idea. And then we have the Christ Buddha-ness, which is it's as me. I truly am the thing itself. It is happening as me. Can you feel how those first two, victim and victor, are actually flip sides of the same coin? And that they're fear-based. Both of them are fear-based. They're both operating from a place where we're afraid of what's going to happen to me. And in one scenario, we become a helpless victim, and in another scenario, we sometimes can become the perpetrator. We become the thing that has to have power over something else. But there is another option. There is this channel. There is this Christ Buddha-ness. This is what we get to be invited into all the time. So how do we do that? So the Baal Shem Tov, he was a truly sort of gifted spiritual leader in the Jewish tradition. He founded the Hasidic movement. And he truly believed that prayer and connection to the divine should be joyous, and the Hasidim dance all over the place, and they sing, and they believe that it should be this ecstatic experience. And he has this story that he shares about the heavenly court, which I want to share with you now. So the Baal Shem Tov taught that in the heavenly court, there is no one who can judge you for what you have done in your life on earth. So this is what they do. They show you someone's life. All the achievements, all the failures, all the right decisions, all the wrong decisions. And then they ask you, so what should we do with this somebody?
Thank you. They were from Long Island?
They were. My childhood accent is emerging. And you give your verdict, which they accept. And then they tell you that this somebody was you. Being now in heaven, you don't recall a thing. Of course, those who tend to judge others favorably have a decided advantage. Better get in the habit now. What I love about that story is that it's so true, that it is the thing that makes us so anxious and fearful, is all the ways that we're trying to control things so that they look the way we want them to look. And as Byron Katie so beautifully teaches us, what happens if that's not true? What happens if we're not judging ourselves or other people as harshly? What if we're actually able to hold people in compassion, in forgiveness? What if we're actually able to be humble? To really be humble. We think we know so much. We think we know. We think we got it all figured out, and this piece I know. Even this teaching, we think we know. Let me share with you how much we know in the cosmic universe. See this little freckle I have right here? That in all of the cosmic universe, that's how much we actually know. It's not a whole lot. There is so much out there that we don't know. But if we don't open our heart, if we don't operate from a place of compassion, if we aren't humble before the truth of the one power and the one presence and what that means, what love is, what grace is, what joy is, if we aren't reverent in our capacity to show up in that love, That's it, exactly. That happens. We're out of alignment. We're out of alignment with the truth of who we are and what we're capable of being. That spiritual warrior. So what we are called to always is present moment awareness. That is what we are continually called to. If we are actually right here, right now, in this moment, everybody just take a breath with me. You can feel the fear fall away. You can feel the deadlines fall away. You can feel the to-do list fall away. Because truly, in any given moment, there is only one thing happening. And you get to choose what that thing is. That we are that powerful. So what are you going to choose? Out of all that's available to you, what are you going to choose? Pema Chodron says, we have to take responsibility when our own hearts and minds harden and close. We have to be brave enough to soften what is rigid, to find the soft spot and stay with it. That's true spiritual warriorship. That's the true practice of peace. We cannot have peace if we are defending ourselves, if we are closed and shuttered, if we think that there is anything or someone against us. We are shuttering ourselves away from peace. That's all we're doing. We're allowing our sense of separation, of fear, to actually become the thing that we believe in, more than the truth, that there is only one. So that soft spot asks us to be vulnerable. That soft spot asks us to show up and to be willing to be hurt, to be willing to actually experience the full gamut of what we came here to experience, because we are in this human form. We are spiritual beings, and we somehow are showing up in the midst of this emotional smorgasbord that is available to us. So what happens if we actually truly do open? The stillness, right here, can you feel that? That's where the peace is, within each of us. Hafiz says, once a young woman said to me, Hafiz, what is the sign of someone who knows God? I became very quiet, and I looked deep into her eyes, and I replied, my dear, they have dropped the knife. Someone who knows God has dropped the cruel knife that most so often they use upon their tender self and others. Are you willing to drop your knife? No matter how attached to it you are, no matter how powerful you think it makes you, no matter how indomitable it makes you, because as long as you're holding that knife, you, like the story about the heavenly court, you are only inflicting that pain upon yourself. And we know that there is only one. So what you choose to inflict upon yourself is showing up everywhere in the world. And the beauty of that means that as we begin to stand in the space of peace, as we know stillness, as we anchor ourselves in the truth of who we truly are, that as I put down my knife, guess what? Somewhere, someone else is putting down theirs. That's the power that we have to change this world. And it begins right here in our own home. So I'm going to offer to you this Advent season that you take advantage of the powerful human race consciousness that is moving through Advent with us. Even if they don't actually understand it the same way that we understand it, there are billions of people around the globe right now moving through, cycling through this practice of seeking to reveal the Christ more fully. So for this week, as we build upon faith, what happens if you actually put the knife down? What happens if you allow the soft spot to shine through? What happens if you're vulnerable? What happens if you actually allow the peace that you are to make itself known more fully and more powerfully and more joyously? Because guess what? Love and joy are coming. Love and joy are coming. We're building the foundation upon which those things can arise. So peace, be still, and know that you have within you everything you need to transform the seeming chaos. Even traffic. You have that capacity to transform your experience of your crazy uncle. You have that capacity to transform that experience as you step into this Advent process of peace.